Equivalent mass, a specialized mass, something related to atomic mass and molecular mass. But what exactly is equivalent mass? Is that mass of the substance which combines or displaces 1 gram of hydrogen or 8 gram of oxygen or 35.5 gram of chlorine, 12 gram of magnesium, 9 gram of aluminium. Now, if you want, this can be written as what? 1 gram of hydrogen can be also written as half a mole of hydrogen, which can be also written as 11.2 decimeter cube of hydrogen. So, that mass of the substance, we are talking about equivalent mass of a substance, is that which combines with either 1 gram of hydrogen or half a mole of hydrogen or 11.2 decimeter cube of hydrogen. Either it can combine or it can displace. Similarly, 8 gram of oxygen or 1/4 mole of oxygen. But why so? Because 32 gram of oxygen, 32 gram of oxygen is actually 1 mole. So, naturally 8 gram of oxygen will be how much mole? Yes, 1/4 mole or 5.6 decimeter cube. Similarly, 35.5 gram of chlorine can be written as half a mole or 11.2 decimeter cube by using mole concept. Similarly, 12 gram of magnesium can be written as half a mole, while 9 gram of aluminium can be written as 1/3 mole. So, what we have realized is equivalent is some scientific mass, okay, of various types. So much data we are supposed to remember, so much data we are supposed to remember in this case. So, right, is there any alternate to remember this formula? Yes, we have converted them into a mathematical formula where equivalent mass is atomic mass by valency for elements like hydrogen, oxygen and so on. If you go by that, then what is the equivalent mass of hydrogen? If you calculate equivalent mass of hydrogen is atomic mass 1, valency of hydrogen is 1, that is 1. So, that was there in the definition of equivalent mass. Similarly, somebody calculates equivalent mass of oxygen. How to calculate equivalent mass of oxygen? Atomic mass of oxygen 16 divided by valency, that is 8. So, all that terms that you saw in the previous definition, they were actually calculated by this formula, of equivalent mass. So, equivalent mass is atomic mass by valency. Then, for molecules or a compound, it is molar mass by factor, that is for compounds. Now, this factor is a special term, right, which has been developed to understand equivalent mass concept clearly. So, that factor of equivalent mass, to say that it is a factor of equivalent mass, we write down E is number of replaceable H plus ions. Like for acid like HCl, number of replaceable H plus ions will be 1. Acid like sulfuric acid, number of H plus ions will be 2. Then, right, for bases, number of replaceable OH minus. For NaOH, number of replaceable OH minus will be 1. For barium hydroxide, number of replaceable OH minus will be 2. Then, for salts, it is total cationic charge. You can even say total anionic charge, but remember to take only magnitude. Don't take the sign. So, if you take Al2SO4 thrice, cationic charge will be, total cationic charge will be, 1 aluminium has 3 plus charge, but you have 2 aluminium. So, total cationic charge will be 6 for Al2SO4 thrice. Then, right, change in oxidation state per molecule for oxidizing agent or reducing agent, or for oxidizing agent or reducing agent, we have one more formula, total number of electrons exchange per molecule, and for ions it is charge in magnitude. Like for magnesium 2 plus, right, factor will be 2, because charge is 2. For CO3, 2 minus factor will be 2 because you are supposed to take only magnitude. You have to take care that you should remember all of this as a factor. All of this as a factor. Now, there's lots to remember, but please write and practice. You can stop this video and write down all these things in your notebook. Coming to the next one, calculating the number of equivalents. If you take a mass and divide by molar mass, we get moles. You know, moles are also called as gram molecules and they are also called as gram moles. Yes. So, when you divide mass by molar mass, you get moles. Mass by molar mass, you get moles. Now, if you take mass and divide it by equivalent mass, you get number of equivalents or number of gram equivalents. Number of gram equivalents. So, mass divided by equivalent mass. So, if you take mass divide by molar mass, you get moles. Mass by equivalent mass, you get number of gram equivalent. If you take mass divide by atomic mass, number of gram atoms. That means what you divide decides the answer. If you divide by molar mass, moles. If you divide by equivalent mass, equivalents. If you divide by atomic mass, number of gram atoms. Now, coming to the more discussion, right? What we know is number of gram equivalent is mass upon equivalent mass. Equivalent mass is molar mass by factor, and equivalent mass, if you put this value, what will happen? Can I say it is molar mass divided by factor? Factor will go there. Have you seen this? Mass by molar mass? Yes, that is nothing but number of moles. So, number of gram equivalent can be written as number of moles multiplied by factor. If you go back and check, mass divided by equivalent mass is equivalent. Then, if you take molar mass and divide it by factor, you get equivalent mass. Put the value of equivalent mass here. If you put so, it will be molar mass divided by factor, and we have seen this somewhere. What is this? That is nothing but moles. So, number of gram equivalent is number of moles multiplied by factor. That is what we get. Remember, 1 mole is 1000 millimoles, also popularly written as mmole. Similarly, 1 equivalent is 1000 milli equivalent. So, remember, 1 equivalent is 1000 milli equivalent. You have to remember. So, pause this video and write the formula. We will try to see with an example. Magnesium is an element? Yeah. So, for an element, it is atomic mass upon valency. Atomic mass of magnesium 24 from literature, from chemistry data. If you want to say chemistry data, you can say literature divided by 2, that is 12. Similarly, oxygen is an element. So, atomic mass upon valency 16 by 2, 8. So, we say gram equivalent of magnesium is 12 gram. Gram equivalent of oxygen is 8 gram. So, 1 gram equivalent. What is 1 gram equivalent? Equivalent mass expressed in gram only. Similarly, 1 gram equivalent of oxygen, that is 8 with gram. So, remember, 1 gram equivalent of magnesium is equivalent mass expressed in gram. 1 gram equivalent of oxygen is equivalent mass expressed in gram. We will try to see how correlation happens in equivalent mass. So, if you take a reaction, magnesium reacts with oxygen to give you magnesium oxide. From this, we know 2 mole of magnesium reacts with 1 mole of oxygen. that is 2 into 24 gram of magnesium reacts with 32 gram of oxygen. You know what is the equivalent mass of magnesium? 12. So 12 gram of magnesium will correspond to how much gram of oxygen? If you calculate, it will come out to be 8 gram. That means 12 gram of magnesium always has ability to combine with 8 gram of oxygen. By the way, what is 12? It is equivalent mass of magnesium. What is 8? Equivalent mass of oxygen. That means they are equivalent to each other. Equivalent. This symbol stands for equivalent. This symbol stands for equal to. So they are equivalent. The word right, we use equivalent if you are having two different substances and you are equating. That time we use a word equivalent. Can I say 12 gram of magnesium is nothing but even 1 gram, right, equivalent of magnesium? And similarly 8 gram of oxygen, can I say it is 1 gram equivalent of oxygen? Oh, that means 1 gram equivalent of magnesium is equivalent to 1 gram equivalent of oxygen. You are able to see 1:1 correspondence is there. So somebody, instead of writing 1, somebody writes 2, then what do you feel here will be? Correct, it will be also 2. In this question, it is given 2 gram of metal gives you 3.6 gram of metal oxide. Now, and they are asking you what is the atomic mass of a metal. We have given it as a dye positive. Dye positive means valency is 2. This data has been given. Now, how to approach such type of numerical? First thing, can we use mole concept? Quite difficult, because we don't know the metal only. So we don't know how to write a reaction. We don't know what is the formula of metal oxide. So we now use equivalent concept, because mole concept has become slightly difficult and trickier to do this. So what we do, we don't write a reaction. We just write on metal gives you metal oxide. We don't write the complete reaction also. We just write on the important part. Now before we go ahead further, how to calculate equivalent mass of metal oxide? Now equivalent mass of metal oxide is given by the formula equivalent mass of metal plus equivalent mass of oxygen. Can you do this? Answer is yes, because in equivalent mass stoichiometry is not considered. Let the equivalent mass of metal be E. What about oxygen? It will be atomic mass upon valency. That is E plus 8. So remember, equivalent mass of metal is E and equivalent mass of metal oxide is E plus 8. You should also know small e, Q, which is called as a gram equivalent, is given by the formula mass upon equivalent mass. Remember that. So can I say by equivalent concept, by using a equivalent concept, can we say EQ of metal will be equal to EQ of metal oxide? Because EQ are always equal for a complete reaction and you don't require stoichiometry. But how to calculate EQ? It is mass upon equivalent mass of metal. How to calculate EQ of this? Mass upon equivalent mass of metal oxide. Is there any mass of metal given? Yes, 2 gram. So we write down 2 upon E. Is the mass of metal oxide given? Yeah, 3.6. 3.6 upon E plus 8. How many unknowns are there? There is only one unknown E. So if you calculate, the value of E is 10. If you solve, E is 10. But they are not asking us to calculate equivalent mass. They are asking us to calculate atomic mass. We know equivalent mass is atomic mass upon valency for element like metal. So what is atomic mass? Correct. It is equivalent mass multiplied by valency. Equivalent mass 10. Valency given as dye positive, that is 2. So atomic mass is 20. So answer is atomic mass is 20. So this was so easily done by equivalent mass concept. Right, which should have been more difficult by mole concept, because you don't know the compound only. You don't know which metal is under discussion.